Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Thursday, January 28th. We're doing an electronic regular council meeting today due to the lockdown and protocols. So council chambers right now, it's just myself and the clerk and our two deputy clerks up on the stage doing YouTube and taking minutes. All of council is tuned in virtually on Zoom. And so we will proceed. I'll call the meeting to order and ask if you'll stand and join in the singing of O Canada. Thank you. Please join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. We'll move on to item 2.3, which is the adoption of the open session agenda. Councillor Seymour Fagan, I believe you have that. Go ahead, please. You're on mute, Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
So, okay, so moved by myself and seconded by anybody?
Councillor Richardson will second that. Go ahead.
Perfect. That the agenda of the open session of the regular council meeting of Thursday, January 28, 2021 be accepted as circulated with the following amendments. Addition, item 5, adoption of the minutes from the December, is it 16th? I can't see. 15th, 2020 special council meeting. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Now we got a mover and a seconder. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in anything on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move down to number 4, notices and information by members of council and staff. Anyone on council have anything they would like to announce? Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead.
We're just getting unmuted. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Connie Downing retired from the Lindsay Police Station and received a gift card from council and senior management and wanted to say thanks. Connie was a communicator at downtown. in Lindsay, and she didn't have a chance to come to City Hall to say thank you. So she just wanted to say thank you. This is Mental Health Day in Canada and Mental Health Day as well, right across Canada as well. As you know, I've been reading McLaughlin has had a fairly major outbreak. McLaughlin Long-Term Care on Crescent Care on McLaughlin Street in Lindsay, and there have been, to date, I understand, there have been 3 deaths. I don't know if they're all attributed to COVID exactly or not. And I know that there's 30-some people that are involved in the, both the staff and residents involved in the outbreak. And I think there's a minor outbreak at Crescent Care on Mary Street as well. But I understand anything I've read or have heard that they're both being managed. And the one on McLaughlin, this Ross Memorial Hospital is involved, and other people from Crescent Care as well from across the province. The vaccines have also arrived. As I read what's on the paper, they arrived at Ross Memorial Hospital this week, and it's my understanding they'll be rolling them out to long-term care homes across the city. And just a minor update from the main street in Lindsay that they've decided to go ahead and do the second part of Kent Street from kind of like from the Grand Hotel up to the next intersection by Tim Hortons, and just because of the other things being shut down. And in conversation with Juan Rojas this week on another matter, he said that basically they think about a month ahead of time right now. But so we don't want to jinx them. Hopefully nothing else will delay them as they continue their journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, did you have an announcement? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of thank yous to Matthew Hutchison. He's with Supernova Fireworks, and he put on an excellent show in Omimi on New Year's Eve, and he also went around to several communities. So thanks to him and his team for all they did for the communities in Kawartha Lakes, putting some smiles on people's faces, and it was great, their shows that they put on. And I'd like to congratulate the Lakeview Arts Barn, Globus Theatre, for their fundraising program SOS, Save Our Stage, and they were able to raise $100,000 as they planned. So that was great. Congratulations to them to keep the theater going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements from anyone on council? Okay, seeing none. Any announcements from anyone on staff? I can't see you, so you'll have to unmute and just speak up. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Thank you. We'll move down to item 5, which is council minutes. I need a motion to receive and adopt the special council meeting minutes of December 15th, 2020, and the regular council meeting minutes of December 15th, 2020 as well. So a motion, please, to receive and adopt. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Dunn. Any comments, questions, omissions? I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Item 6, we'll move down to deputations. We have one deputation today regarding a review of service levels by the CAO, item 9.3.21 on the agenda. Mr. David Webb. There you are, Mr. Webb. Can you hear me okay?
I certainly can, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. So as you were reminded, sir, you got 5 minutes, so please go ahead.
All right, well, thanks very much for giving me a few minutes to speak to the service level review that's being proposed. So my interest in this, I'm a taxpayer, obviously, and I'm looking for the best service I can get at the best value. My career was spent in service management as well with Service Ontario. And personally, I have a great deal of respect for the services that are being provided by the city. But I know I've been at public meetings where it looks like not everyone shares their satisfaction with all of the city's services. I wanted to make sure that this service level review, if it went through, had a citizen perspective. And so that's basically why I'm here. My understanding of the memorandum is that here we are a year down the road. Our services have been modified significantly due to the pandemic. So we've got two choices. We can either go back to the way services were before the pandemic, when things go back to normal, or maybe we can use this time and learn some lessons about how we've gotten through a year with such a greatly reduced in-person channel especially. Next slide. So the major questions for a review, I think they're fairly self-explanatory on the slide deck. But the primary ones for me are, would a change in service level like this, if it remained, fully satisfy the needs of the citizens and businesses? Does it satisfy the city's needs for their mandate, their mission, vision, and values? And while citizens are accepting the service level right now because they have to, they have no choice, would they accept it after a pandemic? The answer is we don't know, because we don't really measure citizen satisfaction nor service performance. What could it mean to leave the services like this? Cost savings, maybe services, we could get better service, but at what risk? So you could certainly see that services could be degraded if you're not careful. And by careful, I mean having a way of understanding what the impact of service changes are. And for me, that means measuring services, measuring their performance, and having a management program in place that can respond to service degradation almost immediately. And obviously, you need to take certain steps to make a change like this, including measuring. You'll need some new electronic tools, a new strategic plan, training, communications, and outreach, etc. Next slide. So what's the current reality right now? Well, we've got a fairly modern website, and that's good. We've got kind of the start of a citizen engagement platform in JumpIn. They're kind of just getting their feet wet right now, but it's a pretty good platform that I think could be used very effectively to gauge citizen satisfaction with their services, to gather input about potential service changes, and to give people a place to share their service experiences, whether positive or negative. And I think that's something that could be done very quickly, like immediately. We've got a good level of electronic transactions that people use, applications, licenses, payments. So we've got some good expertise in delivery of electronic transactions. The city's got a great IT operations and customer service skill set. One bullet I left off the slide, but which needs to be there, is the reality is our in-person channel has been greatly reduced for a year, and yet we're still here and we're still operating. So kudos. The level of citizen and business satisfaction with the service is unknown because we don't really measure it. And I've done a private analysis of city data that I acquired through Freedom of Information that shows that it takes an average of 54 days to resolve a case in the case management system. And whether you think that's good or bad, you don't want to risk it getting any worse, I wouldn't think. And lastly, the city does not have an operating service performance measurement and management program. However, I think staff is engaged in doing a report back by the end of Q1 on some service and case enhancements, so maybe things will get better there. It's my opinion that if service performance and client satisfaction is not measured, it's impossible to know the effectiveness and the impact of service changes that are proposed and the level of satisfaction citizens might have. Next slide. So as I mentioned, I've acquired some data through Freedom of Information from the city case management system. On average, it takes 54 days to resolve a case. Maximum is 382 days, approximately 6,000 cases a year, 75% of those by phone, 77% of them are roads, and potholes are number one by far. Interestingly, the volumes of cases are relatively the same between 2019 and 2020, but the city got far better at resolving cases, like 47% better. So, kudos. We're heading in the right direction. Next slide. So for this service level review, I strongly believe that changes in service levels will not be successful unless citizens and businesses have direct input into the proposed changes. So direct input into a service level review, for example, if that was approved. Input into the Q1 report back on case enhancements, and that citizens have an ongoing ability to input into city's performance, and maybe that's through JumpIn. I think the city needs to implement a rigorous performance measurement and management program. And by management, I mean being able to respond to reported service degradation. Services that are not currently electronically enabled will need to be made such, or we may need to enter into partnerships. And the reason I mention that is working for Service Ontario, I know we had interjurisdictional agreements with municipalities where we could share delivery of services across both organizations. So something to think about there.
I'll just ask you to wrap, I'll
there's-
just ask you to wrap it up, Mr. Webb, if you would. You're just over your 5 minutes, please.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So I think, yeah, so I think we've, there's been a lot of talk about making services better and more effective and more efficient. There've been several activities been proposed. What I would suggest is that those activities be wrapped into an overarching service betterment program. So apply focus and not duplicate our effort looking at a service review and a Q1 report back on case enhancements, that type of thing. Pull together a single service betterment program. To that end, I would be willing to put forward a kind of a straw man framework for it for discussion at a committee of the whole or another council meeting, if that was desired. I think that the service review that Councillor Vaile is proposing, great idea. I support it. I think we should do it. I think that maybe there could be a friendly amendment to the motion to add that there must be citizen input to the review, and that staff be directed to provide a scope, a timeline, and an approach, feed it back to council so that you know you're getting what you're requesting. A couple other very quick things. I mentioned Jump In. I think it's a great platform. I think it could be used to assess customer satisfaction and get some input on service changes. I would recommend that you set up a forum right now on Jump In. And if you needed help doing that or in moderating it, you've got somebody here who's willing to volunteer their time to do that. And lastly, if you think that the reporting I've done on service performance is valuable, it cost me $75 to get the data, and I'm happy to have done that. If you think it's valuable, I think I could provide even more data if the data that I got was less redacted. And under MFIPA rules, that cannot be to a private citizen. If you recognized me as a volunteer agent of the city and gave me unredacted data, I could do some deeper analysis and reporting for you. So I'll leave it at that. If you've got any questions, happy to. And like I said, I'm happy to volunteer my time to expand on anything that's here presented at committee of the whole or council meetings. Happy to do it.
Thanks, Mr. Webb. We appreciate your information. I'll just get a motion to receive, and I'll get a motion to receive, and we'll see if there's any questions. So don't go anywhere for a minute. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Ashmore, seconded by Councillor Dunn. Any questions for the deputant?
Just a note I failed to mention. At the back of the slide deck, there's a number of other charts and reports on service performance, just for your...
Yep, Council received a copy of your slide deck. Councillor Ashmore, you had a question? Go ahead.
Just a comment through you to Mr. Webb. I just wanted to thank him for all the work he put into this. This is a tremendous amount of work. Took a few months of work here, a lot of hours. He did it all by himself. And got the data that he needed through the FOI, which was finally got the information, but he extrapolated all the data and put it in all the charts, and it came out in a really good presentation, and I'm hoping to speak to it here when it gets down into further into the agenda. But I wanted to thank him because he did a tremendous job.
Thank you. Any other questions for the deputant? Okay, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Thanks again, Mr. Webb. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
All right, cheers.
Okay, we'll move down to item 7, which is correspondence. The only correspondences we have is regarding the COVID-19 pandemic from Kirsten Kelly. Can I get a motion, please, to receive the correspondence? Councillor Elmsley, moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions, comments, Call the question. All in favor? Thank you.
Had a
Anyone
question.
opposed?
Had a question.
You had a question?
I had a
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Dr. Kelly for putting this in. Put a lot of work into it, and she explains the balanced approach to this whole thing. I would like to receive it, and if I could have this correspondence sent off to our MPP Laurie Scott and our MP Jamie Schmale, if I could, please.
Well, we have a motion to receive. We have a motion to receive. You can do a follow-up if you want, because she's already sent it off to the MP and the MPP, but if you want to do it from council, I'm not going to get in the middle of that one, but we have a motion right now to receive, so let's deal with that first. All in favor? Anyone opposed receiving it? Thank you. That motion passes. You have a follow-up, Councillor Ashmore?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just to have this correspondence forwarded to MPP Laurie Scott and MP Jamie Schmale, just for their information.
Thank
I
you.
think that,
Anybody want to second that? Anybody want to second that? Councillor Dunn will second that. Okay. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Ashmore?
no, I'm fine, thanks. It's all there.
Councillor Dunn? You're okay? All right. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion fails. Okay, thank you. We've just got a motion to receive. That pass, so we'll go from there. Presentations, we have none. Committee of the Whole. So correspondence regarding Committee of the Whole. So we have a couple of extractions. So I need a motion that the minutes of the January 12th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be received and the recommendations included in section 9.3 of the agenda, save and accept 938, 939, 938 is extracted by Councillor Vail, 939 is extracted by Councillor Ashmore, 9318 is extracted by Councillor Ashmore, and 9321 is extracted by Councillor Ashmore, and that all the rest be adopted. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Are there any more extractions first? Okay, can I get a mover then for the balance of those recommendations?
Hang on, my sound cut out. Did you get the one that I wanted extracted?
Yeah, that's in the consent reports. This is just the Committee of the Whole
Okay.
we're doing right now. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I couldn't hear. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so will you move where are you going, jumping all over there? Will you move the rest of the recommendations? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vail. Any questions, comments on the balance of the Committee of the Whole? I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. So first extraction from Committee of the Whole is the 938 is the roads database update. Report RD 2021-001 has been extracted by Councillor Vail. Go ahead, Councillor Vail.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So at the Committee of the Whole, we had Director Robinson's report or update on the roads database. And through that report, it came out that they're not completely done, and it looks like that database won't be complete until 2022 or 2023, based on searching out ownerships of some of these roads and so on and so forth. I guess when I look at that, what I'm wondering is, can we bring the list that we have now forward to council and deal with what those roads are? Have staff's recommendation or whatever come forward, and council can put a policy in place as to what we know today. The roads that they're still researching and everything, once there's a policy in place, they should be able to fall into whatever that policy is, right? I just don't know that waiting another year or 2 years to deal with some of these things makes sense.
Okay, so I guess we'll need a motion. I guess the idea for getting all the information was, you know, there's going to be a cost to whatever policy council puts in place. And I guess the original idea was we wanted to know what that total cost, what that total project is going to involve before we make a decision. But I hear you. So what's your recommendation for a motion then, Councillor Vail, that the roads database update be received and
that we ask the Director of Public Works to bring options and recommendations for a policy for the road list we have currently before the end of Q2.
Okay, let's see if we can get you a seconder and you can speak to it. Anybody want to second that? Councillor Elmsley? Go ahead, Councillor Vail.
Okay, I think I pretty much covered it, right? We've been having these discussions about these roads for a long time. And so to continue to wait, and I get, we want to see the whole picture. I just think if we know that we're dealing with 80% of the roads and there's still 20 out there, we have a good picture of, or a good view of what the picture is, and can start putting a policy in place to deal with this stuff instead of allowing it to go on.
Thank you. Councillor Elmsley, do you want to speak to it?
Just briefly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I think that this has gone on for years and years and years and years, and getting something in place now would probably be helpful for staff in making it more efficient to go forward and having a policy that it fits into. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Yeo, you had a question? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against the motion. In Councillor Vail's rationality, he mentioned that then staff will know where to throw a road when it comes up. And that's the part that scares me. The fact that all these roads that we're dealing with, they all have history, all have stories behind them. And if we're going to leave council out of this after this policy, and this other 20% of roads comes up, and all of a sudden they're getting put into different areas without council even knowing about it until the phone call comes, or the numerous phone calls come from the people on that road, I'm not comfortable with that. I'd rather see the whole picture. You're right, we have waited years and years, and waiting another year and a half or so, in my mind, is a small price to pay to get all the information to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to loop, I got you, Councillor Ashmore. I'm going to loop Director Robinson in and just get his comments because this is his report. So Brian's there. Brian, do you want to comment on the recommendation, on your thoughts? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree that we need to wait until we have the full, we have information on all the roads and are able to bring a fulsome discussion through to council. As mentioned before, and I fully agree with Councillor Yeo, that each one of these roads has a unique history, has a unique construction, has unique characteristics that need to be considered when council's describing or prescribing levels of service on those roads. So I would highly encourage us to slow down, wait, and ensure that we have all the information coming to council before we make any of those decisions. I would argue that there's already council policy in place to handle current roads. We have the seasonal level of service policy that prescribes service on unassumed roads. We have the road assumption policy that prescribes how roads are assumed by the municipality. We already have a number of the core policies in place on how to deal with roads. What we're really talking about here is how do we handle historical roads that have received some level of service where the municipality is not obligated to provide those services, and how do we come to a determination of what level of service is appropriate for those roads. And those discussions need to happen when we have all the full scope and details of those roads available.
Agree. Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, just stick around if you would, Director, and we'll see if there's any other questions. Councillor Ashmore, you had a question?
Hey, yes, Mr. Mayor, through you to Director Robinson. How would this affect the 5-year roads plan? Like, that's a defined process that we have, is it not? The 5-year roads plan, and now we're going to be, will we be changing this with this with this new report coming like next month or so? How's that going to affect the 5-year roads plan? We've got all these roads all specifically marked out for each year. And how will this change things if we go to this, if we support this today?
I am not sure how they're tied together. So the engineering department manages and leads a capital plan for roads needs and roads improvement. So their capital construction plan would continue down that path. What we're looking at here is private roads, unassumed roads that are receiving some service. They're not part of our capital plan. So the capital road improvement plan would have no impact on the decision that we're on the discussion we're having right now. Again, what we looked at doing, and part of the concern that I have is if we make premature decisions on assuming roads that have received some level of service that are grossly deficient from current standards, the cost of improving those roads and bringing those roads up to municipal standard are significant. Recognize we have a number of roads that already are under, substandard to current design, but there's many roads that we can't even barely get equipment down. So if we make a rash decision to assume or consider those roads assumed, we're setting ourselves up for some significant operational challenges and capital challenges down the road.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you. Any further questions for the mover or the director? Okay, Councillor Vail, do you want to sum up?
No, I'm good.
Okay, we'll call the questions. Everybody clear on the motion? If you're not, raise your hand. Okay, we're good. Councillor Ashmore, you're not clear on the motion?
Could you read the motion again, please?
We sure can. Madam Clerk.
That the Director of Public Works bring forward a list of the known roads with the recommendations and options by Q2.
And that the roads database be received, the report, okay? So we're really just talking about what they've proposed in the report, bringing in a year and a half from now, or 2 years from now, with all the information. Councillor Vail's proposing bringing forward an interim report, and if we are going to set some policy, we can do it now as opposed to waiting till we have the rest of the information. So we'll call the question then. All in favor of that motion? Thank you. Opposed? I'm opposed as well, so that motion fails. Can I get a motion then, as per printed in the Committee of the Whole, that the report RD 2021-001 Roads Database Update be received? Can I get a motion for that, please? Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor Yeo. Call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That motion's passed. Thank you. We'll move into the next extraction, which is the municipal elections 2022 voting method has been extracted by Councillor Ashmore. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just I'll motion to receive if I could first, and then I had a follow-up question to the clerk.
Okay, why don't you just go ahead with your, okay, let's do a motion to receive, seconded by Councillor Yeo. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions to the clerk. We talked about this at the Committee of the Whole, and I just wanted to verify that you had said that there would be the opportunity for paper ballots, and they would be available at various stations for people to physically vote with a paper ballot. Would that still be the case?
No, I don't believe we said that, but go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Well, I think Councillor Vail brought that up. To his credit, he did ask that question about paper ballots, and I think it's a good question. It's a valid question.
I think the question was asked and answered. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the paper ballots were not an option through the proposed voting method of electronic, both internet and telephone. It was going to increase the cost, make the process slower as far as the results, and open us up to a complicated system, creating more opportunity for error. So it was not my recommendation to go forward with a paper ballot.
And my final question is this, and then I'll get on with things here, but it's the the voting roll. It was based on the MPAC assessment. Now, is this voting roll based on the previous electoral roll that was adjusted? Like that was, you had so many people that, for example, not just own property, but that rented and were never on the voting list. So are we going to be copying the voting list that we had, the revised voting list from 2018, or are we just basically starting new again? Like we're throwing a list from MPAC, and then is that going to happen again, that they just give us a list and then we have to adjust it and fix all the mistakes basically that they threw at us?
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the voters list is updated in preparation for the 2022 election. In the election of 2018, we made several adjustments as far as correcting information, additions and deletions, and those corrections will be carried forward into the new voting list. And as I said, it's an ongoing project between now and the election that will ensure that the voters list is as current as possible with a partnership with MPAC.
Okay, that's fine, thanks. Great.
Okay, any other questions, comments? We have a motion to receive. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed to receiving? Motion has passed. Thank you. Does anybody want to do a follow-up to put a method in place for the next election? Councillor Yeo?
Yeah, I believe, I've got it right in front of me. Sorry, I'm looking at something else. But the motion to do what we did last time, status quo.
So the rest of the motion as printed, the recommendation from Committee of the Whole? Thank
Yes.
you. Moved by Councillor Yeo, second by Councillor Elmsley. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Yeo?
No, thank you.
Councillor Elmsley?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, any questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Thank you. We'll move down to 9.3.18, which was the memo from Councillor Ashmore regarding the Omemee Beach Park splash pad. Councillor Ashmore, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I was just wanting a motion to receive first, if I could. And then I just had two questions.
Yeah, motion to receive by Councillor Ashmore, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just basically what I was going to bring up was that we have good communication between staff and myself, that, you know, we don't get a report like 3 or 4 months down the road and there was no communication. I'd like to be involved, and that's all I'm asking for. And I just wanted to be assured that myself and members of the public, well, primarily myself and perhaps maybe Councillor Richardson as well, we have a lot of people that may use this facility, that will use this facility, are going to be communicated to by staff as we, you know, work with all these groups. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm not left out in this report and I've had some input. And the second thing was, there was a comment about water. I know in Omemee that there's plenty of the quantity of water and the quality of water. It isn't an issue. I just wanted to clarify that. There was some comments about that, so that shouldn't really weigh into it.
Yep, that'll all come back in the report, I'm sure. So thank you. So Director Shanks is listening, Councillor Ashmore, so I'm sure he'll make a note to keep you and Councillor Richardson in the loop as this report is due to come back in Q2 21. So not too far off. So we have a motion to receive, so let's deal with that first. I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Councillor Ashmore, do you want to move the rest of the recommendation as well?
Sure. All right, I'll do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any further questions, comments? All in favor of the motion as printed? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. This seems like a fairly deliberate process, but it's good that we're transparent, so thank you for your patience. Okay, item 9.3.21 is our last extraction from Committee of the Whole. Was a memo from Councillor Vale regarding the service levels review by the CAO, extracted by Councillor Ashmore. Go ahead, Ron.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. What I wanted to do was receive it and ask for if I could have a paragraph put in, just an amendment. If I could read it, please, to be added to it.
So the motion as printed with another that, I assume?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yep, go ahead then. It's your report now. You extracted it.
Okay, and I sent this to the clerk, that the CAO create a service betterment program to tie together all actions and plans related to the changes to city services and service processes. The program will report to council on a regular basis, and the governance will include a representative from council and from the public.
Thank you. Does anybody want to second that motion? And then we'll see what Councillor Vale thinks about his memo. Can I get a seconder for that motion? Councillor Yeo will second. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Ashmore?
No, that's okay. I just think that when we're doing this, we might as well do it all and get it all done instead of doing it two separate memos and two separate reports. So I just think it's a good time to include that.
Councillor Yeo, did you want to comment on it? Go ahead.
Yeah, I seconded it. So I thought Counselor would explain a bit about it, but he didn't. He didn't explain too much about it. So if you want to add some detail on what outcomes you're trying to see here, Ron, and that easier with me. Thank you.
No, it's a good comment. Perhaps you can explain what you propose by a betterment program.
Well, what that was basically we need to have, I think, at least one council representative involved in this and a member of the public. We had a member of the public. It doesn't have to be necessarily Mr. Webb, but it could be another member of the public. But I'm just saying that we need to have public input. We need to have council input, elected representatives who as we represent people, and we try and deal with case files, and we're trying to cut that down. We're doing a great job. We're cutting it down. We've got it down to 54 days. Like we're getting our issues dealt with. But that's the whole idea of that. It's to get these case files moving faster through the system. That's the reason why I'm doing this, and we need to have some sort of council oversight on this, as well as maybe one member of the public. So that was the whole idea of this.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Councillor Vale to comment. It was his memo originally. I get the feeling you're crossing two different scenarios here. I think, the information to come back from the CAO, and then perhaps you're talking about the next step from there if we want to go there. But I'll stay out of it. I'll let Councillor Vale comment. It was his memo. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. I don't disagree with what Councillor Ashmore wants to do, but I think he's ahead of where we are. All I'm asking for is the changes that have been made, for that to come back to council, and then that's totally up to council, what council wants to do with it and how they set up. I think that's the motion at that point, is to put whatever, a committee made up of public or for public input and a councillor or whatever. All I'm looking for is, we've changed over the last 12 months or 10 months how we've done business. And I think council should see what those changes are and have an opportunity to have a discussion of whether that's a better way of doing business or a worse way of doing business, just before we go back to doing things the way we did before. And if we don't ask for that and we don't see it, that's exactly what will happen. We will go back to doing business the way we did before, right? Planning, I think is a good example, right? The planning department has been closed. People have had to make appointments. And when you talk to the planners and everything, from their point of view, that works better, that they're making appointments and that they don't have the counter And when they're having appointments that, you know, they're dealing with things completely and instead of having the wrong planner deal with the wrong application or the customer at the counter, stuff like that. I think there's other ways of doing stuff. We just need to see what that is and have a discussion of whether it makes sense to change or not change. That's all.
So just for our clarification, so you're not in favor of this change to your memo? Is that what you're proposing, Councillor Vail?
Yeah, I think that's the memo when the information comes back.
Thank you. I agree. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, go ahead.
Yes, just to add to what Councillor Vela said, I think we do the first step first. And because I think, as he mentioned with planning, it's working very well. But I think we'll go out, we'll assess all the other areas. We talked about a number of other departments. And when that comes back, we can have a fulsome discussion on that. And then we can decide what's working best compared to some of the past practices and decide which way we should be going forward. I think that's, and then maybe after that, we can consider what Councillor Ashmore is talking about.
Agree. And just a reminder to council that we have a report coming back from the CAO regarding customer service and case management in March by the end of Q1. So we'll have a lot of information back then too. So a lot of information to come. Don't need to get ahead of it, in my opinion. Councillor Dunn, I'm sorry, did you have a question? Did I see your hand go up?
Yeah, you did. I was just kind of curious about the civilian involvement and how you would actually make that work. I find it intriguing that you would have a citizen involved, and I believe it's a good idea. But I tend to be going along now with Councillor Vail. Let's get the report. I personally don't find 54 days particularly, you know, it's better, but it's certainly not where I want to stop. I think we can do better. I think we can do substantially better. I was intrigued with Mr. Webb's report, but I don't know how you work that in to management of the city. So I won't support the motion at this time, but it's still a good idea.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? And then I'll ask Councillor Ashmore to sum up. Anyone else? Okay, Councillor Ashmore, go ahead. Sum up, please.
Yeah. Okay. Could I ask a question for you to the CAO before?
Sure, of course you can.
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor,
So
let me just get him on board here. There he is. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Sure. I just wanted to ask CEO, what would be in the report? Like the report's coming in March, and it's specifically to do with case management and how we deal with it. Is that going to be the report, or is it going to be what else would be in the report that would be coming forward, please?
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the intent is to report back to you Q1 on the case management system and recommended enhancements to that system. So we will be focusing, you'll hear similar stats to what were presented by Mr. Webb, because one of those will be looking at the different trends, types, and nature of complaints. We want to bring forward some recommendations, though, for future in terms of how we report those issues and cases so that council and staff can track them better, and the public. So that was the intent or scope of the reporting for Q1. And then we will focus on Q2, bringing back, as was already described, more details on specific service areas and programs and lessons learned and recommendations for efficiencies on those programs from our pandemic experience. That will be at the end of Q2.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. So everybody clear on the motion? Thank you, CAO. The motion on the floor is with the extra addition. Do you have the addition there, Madam Clerk, and I'll read it? Yeah. Thank you. So it's the motion as printed with the addition that the CAO create a service betterment program to tie together all actions and plans related to changes to city services and service processes. The program will report to council on a regular basis, and the governance will include a representative from council and from the public. That in addition to the motion on the original memo. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion has failed. Councillor Vale, do you want to move your original memo recommendation, sir? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Vale, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any questions, comments? I'll call the question. I'm just missing Councillor Ashmore. Oh, there he is. Okay. I'll call the question then. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That motion passes. Okay. That's our committee of the whole minutes. Thank you. We'll move into item 10, which is the Planning Advisory Committee. So we had one report regarding the Geographic Township of Emily, Edward Grass. Your report was there. So I need a motion. No one wants to extract it, I assume. It's only the one. Okay, so I need a motion that the minutes of the January 13th, 2021 Planning Advisory Committee meeting be received and the recommendation included in section 10.3 of the agenda be adopted. Moved by Chair of that committee, Councillor Vale, and seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any questions or comments? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That motion is passed. Item 11 is the consent matters. I believe, Councillor Dunn, you have that. Councillor Seymour Fagan has asked to extract 11.1.3, which is the film production and processes report. Are there any other extractions from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Dunn, will you go ahead, sir?
Yeah, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Vale, that all the proposed resolutions shown in section 11.1 of the agenda be approved and adopted by council in the order that they appear on the agenda and subsequently numbered, saved, except for item number 11.1.3.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Councillor Seymour Fagan, you extracted 11.1.3. Go ahead, please.
Yes. As someone who's on the Economic Development Task Force, I just want to say thank you for Donna and our Economic Development Department going forward and moving that we look at establishing a film production office here. Because it's a huge industry. We have someone who's actually looking at bringing a studio up here. It's a $1 billion industry, and the offshoots actually from the economic impact can be up to $280 million for $1 billion actually for the other businesses that help the film industries, everything from cars to heating to carpenters. So this is huge. I don't know if everybody knows this, but the film industry is continuing. There was a big article in CBC, actually on CBC, stating how busy the film industry is because everyone's at home and the streaming, we don't have enough content. So that's why it's really imperative that we start moving forward as a municipality and seeing what kind of dollars we can get from this industry because we've been lagging and there's other areas in Ontario that are just booming because of it. So it's awesome. So thank you very much, Donna.
Thank you for that. Councillor, will you move the recommendation as printed, please? I'll take that as a yes. Seconded by Councillor Vale. Thank you. I will thank you for that. It's a great comment, and I will add, I think there's more than one group interested in coming up here, so I've heard from several. So I think it's a good news story, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Anybody got a question or want to comment? Okay, I'll call the question on the report, film production and processes as printed. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. Thank you for that. That's it for our consent. We don't have any petitions today. Bylaws. Are there any extractions to the bylaws? Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, I believe you have the bylaw.
Yes, I do. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Ashmore, that the bylaws shown in section 14.1 on the agenda, namely items 14.1.1 to 4 and including 14.14, be read a first, second, third time passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. We'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is passed. We have item 15. We have no notice of motion. Let me see where I'm going here. We need to go into closed session. We're moving right along here. I just need to, because we're virtual, at this point of the meeting, City Council will go into closed session to consider the items under section 16.3 of the agenda. All remaining staff, with the exception of the CAO, the city clerk, and the city solicitor, and the required directors, are now instructed to leave the electronic Zoom meeting at this time, please. As per our procedural bylaw requirements, I'm asking all remaining participants in our meeting today to confirm to me by raising your hand that they are in a private room where no other person can overhear the deliberations and your internet connection is secure and not publicly accessible. Can you just all confirm that by raising your hands? I've got everybody confirmed. Thank you for that. Okay. And then I need a mover and a seconder for the following motion, that council convene into closed session at 1:57 p.m. of the Municipal Act, pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, in order to consider matters identified in section 16.3 of the special council meeting agenda of Thursday, January 28th, 2021. Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Yeo. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? That motion is carried. We'll now, at this point, the meeting broadcast will now end for members of the public watching on Cogeco, Your TV cable broadcast. The live stream of the meeting on YouTube will now be temporarily paused for members of the public. When closed session is complete, the live stream of the meeting will resume to address the remaining open session items on the agenda. So let's take a quick 10 minutes. It's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, so at 2:10, and we'll come back and go into closed session. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We're just coming out of close, and we have a few motions in open. Coming out of close, motions from closed session, so I'll turn it over to the deputy, or the clerk, sorry, to go through them. There's a few appointments to committees. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, item 16.3.1, the adoption of the closed session minutes, was approved by council. Item 16.3.2, the report for the appointment of the Kawartha Lakes Municipal Heritage Committee. A motion is required by council appointing Julia Hartman for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2022. John Pritchard for a 2-year term, William Peel for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, will you move that?
I'll move that. Thanks.
Thank you. Second by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? That motion's passed. Thank you.
Item 16.3.3, to appoint the Agricultural Development Advisory Committee members. So council will require a motion that the following members of the public be appointed to the Agricultural Development Advisory Committee: Phil Callahan, Pat Bukowski. 2-year term ending December 31st, 2021. 2022.
2022?
Yeah.
They should all be end of council term 2022. Yeah. Okay, so I need a mover. That's for the Agriculture Advisory. Councillor Vale, will you move that? Thank you. Second by Councillor Richardson. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That motion is passed.
Item 16.3.4, to appoint the Kawartha Lakes Accessibility Advisory Committee, that the following members of the public be appointed to the Kawartha Lakes Accessibility Advisory Committee: Sharon Copeland for a 2-year term, Linda De Silva for a 2-year term, Diane Eaglestad for a 2-year term, Elizabeth Peters for a 2-year term, all ending December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Yeo. All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you.
Item 16.3.5, to appoint off-road vehicle use of city road task force, off-road vehicle use of city roads task force for a proposed term of the task force. Don Mitchell, Jason Ramsey, Carolyn Richards, and Steve Lane.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Dunn. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you.
Item 16.3.6, this is to appoint for the Lindsay Ops Landfill Public Review Committee, that the following members of the public be appointed to the Lindsay Ops Landfill Public Review Committee for a 2-year term ending December 31st, 2022. Barry Hodgkinson, Chris Appleton, Larry Scrivens, Lloyd Robertson, and David Webb.
Thank you. Get a mover for that, please. Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor Elmsley. Thank you. All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you.
Item 16.3.7, report WM 2021-005, evaluation of bagged recycling. Council provided direction on bagged recycling for curbside collection. Item 16.3.8, the report on the corporate 2021-001 report, bargaining mandate for Ontario Nurses Association. Council provided direction to staff on the bargaining mandate for the Ontario Nurses Association. Item 16.3.9, report LGL 2021-001, the city solicitor provided information pertaining to the litigation commenced by Maple Ridge Mechanical Contracting, Inc. against the city, being Superior Court File 19-142, and obtained instruction pertaining to the same. Requiring a motion on item 16.310, fire services staffing matter, that council and the CAO form a working group to review fire services and the overall budget.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you. Is that it? That's it for closed. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Ashmore, I believe you have that, sir.
Yes. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held Thursday, January 28th, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you. And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Seymour Fagan, seconded by Councillor Yeo. All in favor? We are adjourned. That motion passes. Thank you. We'll see you all Tuesday morning, bright and early at 9 o'clock. Charge that battery, Councillor Yeo. Thank you. Have a good night.